What if I told you I could see the future? Well, I can't see the future, but if we looked at Terry McLaurin's last few games since 2022, he opened up every single game with 4 targets and 2 receptions. He did that again here in week 1, and now he's got everybody spinning. Do I start him? Do I sit him? I'm here to let you know, not only Terry McLaurin, but the rest of the wide receivers as well. So let's kick it off with him, Scary Terry. I'm going to throw him in the decent flex category. Now, he's been a slow starter, not only in just week 1, but in week 2 as well. The rest of the season, he's usually pretty good. I think he's actually a great trade for candidate. You can check out any of my socials. I post all of the blogs and articles on, what the tendencies are for a lot of these players, specifically wide receivers as well. Terry McLaurin has a tough matchup here in week 1. He gets the Packers. I'm not super excited for him. I'm actually more excited for his teammate, Deebo Samuel, who I would be starting over him. And again, these rankings here, these are tiers. These are tier lists. This isn't my 100% rankings. All of my rankings can be found in the Discord or on Twitter. I post them there each and every single week, all throughout the season. And they're always updating. So this would be, a lot easier for everyone to try to comprehend. But in that same matchup, Deebo Samuel, let's sit on him for just a second. These short area targets, his usage in week 1, it looks a little bit more prescriptive. Terry McLaurin always been kind of that deep threat. The Packers defense is legit, and I think this is going to be, it's the second highest over-under. It's Thursday Night Football. It's prime time, so it's going to be a lot of eyes on this one. It'll be one to watch for sure. Basically, the way that I'm handling all of the Packers wide receivers is I'm cool with Jaden Reed as like a weaker flex, and then in deep leagues only really am I starting Romeo Doubs or Matthew Golden. I'm excited for Golden on the course of the season. Romeo Doubs has always been that kind of guy where he can hit, he can miss, he can get you, some solid points, but the ceiling is not really there right now at the moment. Move on to the next game. We got the Browns and the Ravens. Jerry Jeudy and Cedric Tillman. These guys, I've got them pretty close in my rankings. I've got Jerry Jeudy here, probably closer to a decent flex going against the Ravens. I'm excited for him. I've also got to put Cedric Tillman. Their games together, they're very comparable. Cedric Tillman actually getting a little bit of the lead, but they were the wide receivers 7 and 8 respectively in the games that they've played together. So I think they're both decent flex here this week. Zay Flowers is one who I've been bashing him a little bit, and he comes out in week 1, destroys everyone's narrative. He's the wide receiver 1 in football. Meanwhile, you have Jamar Chase, who's the wide receiver 77. Are those two going to stay? Yeah, trade Zay Flowers for Jamar Chase if you can. No one's going to do that in any one of your leagues. But Zay Flowers here, I think this is going to be a little bit of a tougher matchup. He's got Denzel Ward, who just shut down the aforementioned Jamar Chase. So, yeah, I'd say Flowers is closer to like a weak, strong start, if that makes sense. Maybe a stronger, decent flex. We'll put him there, and we can adjust later if need be. And the same thing with his teammates. It's kind of similar to the Packers in the sense where I'm not really excited to start Rashad Bateman or D-Hop. He had an awesome one-handed catch. I'm sure everybody saw it, game of the year style. But it's not very prescriptive. They're not running the ball, or they're not throwing the ball a lot. They're running the ball a ton. And I expect more in that game here where they're heavy favorites. Let's go to Jacksonville versus the Bengals. Brian Thomas was a 1 catch in week 1. I think he had a rushing touchdown as well. You just still have to keep rolling with him. You got to keep rolling with him. It's the Bengals. This is the highest over-under of the week. You just got to keep going with your studs. You keep starting them until you can't anymore. And then Travis Hunter, this one is going to get a lot of people, and I think he's a little undervalued. You hear a lot of the rumors, Liam Cohen wanting to start him some more on defense. Travis Hunter was a J.C. Horn one-handed interception away from an 80-yard to-the-house touchdown. Like, if you haven't seen it already, I'll retweet it here after this video, but it was so close to being a breakout game for Travis Hunter in just week 1. So I think he's definitely a strong, I'm going to put him a decent flex. And again, it doesn't mean you Flowers is ahead of him or that Travis Hunter is behind him. I think he's a strong flex, if anything there. He's not quite a strong start, but I would love to see it here in this game. Jamar Chase, obviously you're starting him. Rule out week 1. That's whatever. You're going to keep starting him as well. And then T. Higgins, we're going to throw him back into the strong start category. The Bengals, they kind of always shoot themselves in the foot come week 1, come really the early season. And, and then they get things rolling. It's a little bit of a slow start for them each and every single year. Then you got a divisional matchup here. You got the Giants versus the Cowboys. Malik Neighbors, I'm throwing him right back into my must-start category. Russ didn't look great, but I think it was 12 targets for Malik Neighbors. That's all you can ask for. Wan'Dale Robinson, we're just going to throw him down in deep leagues only. We're going to try and trust that hopefully we can get something rolling with CeeDee Lamb. 4 drops week 1. Not excited about that, but you have to start your studs each and every single week. This one's going to be a little bit maybe controversial with George Pickens. I have him as my wide receiver 37 this week. I'm not very excited here for George Pickens. And I think it's closer to consensus. A lot of people were really, really high or they were really, really low. I don't think there's anybody who's kind of the middle ground for the two. But I'm going to put him as a decent flex. We've seen George Pickens, there was a game, maybe 2023, where he had like 4 catches for almost 200 yards. He can break the game in that capacity, but he can also do what he did in week 1. And that's, if you have Pickens, that's kind of what you have to know and go with for the entire season. Bears and Lions, I have Rome Odunze. Maybe I'm just, I don't know, too big of a fan or not, but I have him over DJ Moore. We saw his usage become a little bit more there for Rome Odunze, more than DJ Moore himself. But yeah, I would put Rome Odunze as probably a decent flex here. Same with DJ Moore. While I'm not a fan as much of DJ Moore's work, and I know a lot of people may be saying, hey, well, Caleb right at the end of the game missed DJ Moore on this, probably going to be touchdown. And, I think it was a tweet from Ryan Fitzpatrick, professional quarterback. So it's not necessarily my opinion, it's his. And whether you think he was good or not, he started in the league for a lot of years. He said there's only like 2 quarterbacks. I think he said Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, who can make that throw that Caleb was trying to do to DJ Moore. It was just us as the consumers looking at it saying, wow, Caleb, how do you miss this pass? Really no excuse as a professional NFL quarterback, but another NFL quarterback coming out and giving us that little bit of a confidence boost, saying that it's a difficult pass. I'm going to take his word for it. You got Zacchaeus. Again, it's another deep league thing. Same with Luther Burden. Luther Burden, I think you can still hold on to him. How much longer? I mean, rookies take a while, especially rookie wide receivers. They take up until about halfway point of the season when we really start to see them ramp up. But Zacchaeus has that role right now. Ben Johnson's not changing that. When will we see the change? Hopefully soon. That's something that I think a lot of people are going to be asking. But on the other side of the ball, Amon-Ra, another player who kind of stunk it up in week 1. You're throwing him right back out there. I think Jamison Williams is another, probably a decent flex here for a lot of players. Kind of a boom bust. We want to see a little bit more usage out of him, maybe a little bit of volume. We don't really typically see it with his archetype of player, but yeah, that's we're going to put him in a decent flex here. Isaac Tesla, awesome one-handed catch, awesome touchdown. You can't quite start him yet. They talk about Dan Campbell's coming out in pressers. We have to get him more. You get him the ball some more and stuff like that, and I do agree. But you have Sam Laporta there, you have Gibbs there, you have Amon-Ra there, you have J-Mo there, you have a lot of targets in front of him. So much like Luther Burden, where I think the talent's there, it just, the path of getting to a relevant role in fantasy may not be there for the time being. It's picked up in a lot of waivers, so I'm curious of how people are thinking about them. You could just let me know in the comments as well what you're thinking. Let's go on to the Patriots versus the Dolphins. Got another divisional matchup here. Stephon Diggs, I think he's a decent flex. I should probably just keep throwing these fellas at the end so we can see. But yeah, I think he's a decent flex. A lot of people are going to be asking about Kayshon Boutte because he got picked up in a lot of leagues. He comes out, it was like 3 of his last 4 games. He's been kind of on fire. Drake May getting that connection. Former, LSU Some people were saying he was a first, second round pick talent, had some off the field issues and whatnot, but Kayshon Boutte, I think he's a weaker flex, but we'd see the upside. Like if he has another 100-yard game or even like 80, 70, something where we're seeing some usage out of him, that's when you really need to hit the button saying this is a person who I could probably throw into my starting lineup each and every single week. Pop Douglas, I'm just going to throw him next to Wan'Dale Robinson. It seems like the Patriots version of him. Maybe fewer targets, but that's kind of how I'm viewing him for the time being. The other side of the ball, Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is someone who I think everyone is afraid to go up against and also start, because like you don't like to see him on your opponent's side, but you also don't like to see him in your starting lineup because it's been a scary ride with Tyreek Hill. I'm going to put him in a decent flex. He's going to be a lot of wide receiver 2s for people's rosters, but yeah, it's not been pretty. I'll put Jalen Waddle here as a weak flex. Another player who we need to see something out of Miami's offense. Is what we saw in week 1 going to be what we see for the rest of the season? I'm not sure. Mike McDaniel coming out and saying, some weird things in press conferences and not really giving me any confidence, giving anyone any confidence, Dolphins fans included, of what the trajectory is for the team. So, yeah, that's Dolphins. Good luck. Let's go to the 49ers versus the Saints. Ricky Pearsall, they haven't announced it just yet. I'll double check here for my notifications. But, yeah, they haven't announced it just yet whether Mac Jones will be starting. He is the quarterback 2 behind Brock Purdy, who now is expected to miss about 2 to 5 weeks with I think it was turf toe. If we get the Mac Jones experience that we got in Jacksonville at the end of last season when we had Brian Thomas just going through the roof with Mac Jones and just getting hyper-targeted, that would be awesome because it feels like that Pearsall is, especially with George Kittle out, is the clear number 1 target for this offense. So I'm going to put him probably in the decent flex category here, but he has the potential to be hyper-targeted in this offense. And he's somebody who, you probably got as your wide receiver 3 or 4, but I would definitely be happy with starting him as my flex and know that upside in the target share certainly could be there. Juwan Jennings, I'm going to put him closer to like a weak flex here in this one. Yeah, we haven't seen, we want to see a little bit more before we get confidence in Juwan Jennings. Obviously, Brandon Ayuk, you're not starting because he's on IR. Here's Olave. What was it? It was like 12, 13 targets. They're Spencer Rattler targets, so you have to keep, it's kind of like Malik Neighbors. Not comparing Olave and Malik Neighbors, but more of, we know that the volume is going to be there. So Chris Olave is somebody who I'm pretty happy with in my flex. I'm not expecting some big 200-yard game unless there's a weird breakaway touchdown, but I think that the volume is there to give you solid points, and then you're hoping for a touchdown on top of that to really elevate him into that really strong flex category. Raheed Shaheed, I'm going to throw him into the weak flex spot. Juwan Johnson, he's not on here, obviously, because this is the wide receiver show, but I do believe that Juwan Johnson is going to be a focal part of that offense. They hurry up. They have so many plays per game that they can allow more targets, whether the bad targets or not. You can just get more reps, more rushes, more passing. Like more plays per game is just, it's money for fantasy. So that's really what we want to see. Now I got the Bills and the Jets at another divisional game. Keon Coleman, he looked pretty good in week 1. Coming out, his kind of knock on him was he was raw. He was injured a lot coming out of Michigan State and Florida State. But yeah, Keon Coleman, I think, is a guy who I have a little bit more confidence than maybe others. I'll put him in the decent flex category, but just know that he could definitely put up some points. The Jets, they just, kind of played against the Steelers. They both put up, I think it was the highest scoring game of the week, which was one of the highest scoring games of the week, obviously game of the year. But yeah, that's a player who I'm definitely confident in starting here. Khalil Shakir, Josh Palmer, I'm going to throw them at weak flex because we've still got question marks on how Josh Palmer was used way more than I think anybody else. My kind of diamond in the rough, who I was thinking could make an impact was Elijah Moore. just kind of thinking about his rookie season. He's undervalued. I wasn't drafting him, but kind of had my eye on him, starring him on waiver wires and seeing if I could, find some hope there. But yeah, Josh Palmer surprisingly used more than expected. Again, it was a rally where they had to come back. So is that prescriptive for the Bills often? Probably not. They're not playing the Ravens each and every single week. It's funny, I have, for this next side, I have just only one other player, and it's Garrett Wilson. We saw him. I'm going to put him in the strong start category. And with Justin Fields, looks nice. College teammates getting reunited. Yeah, Garrett Wilson is a very strong start for a lot of teams. Jackson Smith-Njigba, I'm going to throw him into the must start. He has like a 55% target share right now, which, if you know anything about that, anything over 30 is absurd. You get like 1 to maybe 2 players each and every single year that hit that amount. Malik Neighbors was one last year. I think he had like 31, 32% target share. 55 is not sustainable. But if he just keeps getting hyper-targeted like that and keeping him above 30, that's money. Got to keep starting him. Cooper Kupp did really nothing in week 1. I'm going to put him as a week flex. You could argue that he should be in deep leagues, but the name value alone, a lot of people are going to have him there at the week flex, and I can't really blame him. Calvin Austin, for the Steelers, he's a week flex. He got a touchdown in week 1. You were wondering who would emerge as the wide receiver 2. Is it going to be one of the tight ends that emerge? Jonnu Smith, is it Pat Freiermuth? You had Ben Skoranek that had, I think, a touchdown. Like, Roman Wilson was somebody who we talked about pretty vividly, I would say, in the offseason. But Calvin Austin is a guy who's a little twitchy, and see what his role is. I don't think he should be out there on waivers. If you have a deeper bench spot, he should be rostered. But that's probably enough about Calvin Austin. I don't think many people are starting him. And then DK, you have a revenge game here. It is the lowest over under the week. It's 39.5 points, but I think that DK with the revenge game, I'm pretty happy with him. I've got him at a strong start. I've got him at my wide receiver 17, so middling wide receiver 2. But I think he definitely deserves to be higher up on the list. Puka Nacua, this is the Rams and Titans game. This one here, Puka Nacua is right back into your starting lineup. Devontae Smith, he is in your, or Devontae Adams. Sorry, I'm thinking about Devontae Smith. Devontae Adams, changing teams and coming over here. He got a little bit of the shutdown treatment there in week 1, but still looked good. Still getting the targets. But Puka Nacua is obviously the one there for Matthew Stafford. So they'll go must start and strong start. Calvin Ridley got a very difficult matchup. Patrick Surtain in week 1. He's going to have another difficult matchup here because the Rams, their pass pressure, this is not an ideal situation. Where do I have? I have Calvin Ridley probably buried. He's at my wide receiver 38, which is right next to George Pickens. I'm going to put him as a decent flex. Target volume should be there, but I think it's another one where you've got to temper those expectations again. We know the connection's been there for Ridley and Ward, but it just depends on the matchup. Like, if he's going to have a very difficult matchup, then obviously you're going to start him, but temper your expectations a lot. Eli Kyle-Manor, one of the waiver wire heroes that people were picking up. He had 7 targets in week 1. It's pretty good for a rookie wide receiver, and a prospect I liked coming out. I thought he was going to be a day 2 pick. Ended up being an early day 3 pick. It's encouraging to see him, but it's not somebody you should be starting unless it's, again, very, very deep leagues. Teddarilla McMillan, let's go ahead. Let's check him out. Him and the Panthers. I think that he is a decent flex. We saw that the targets were there. If you saw the clip going around on social media, he got a one-handed catch in between two defenders. Like, it looked super awesome. It showed talent, which is kind of what you want to see. You want to see that he's doing that against, starting NFL players. And I think he looked fabulous in week 1. We just need to get Bryce Young up and targeting him more, and then just playing better football. So it's really a Bryce Young thing than it is a Teddarilla McMillan. Xavier Legette, I think this is only a deep leagues play. didn't really do much there as the wide receiver 2 there in the offense. And then let's go with Marvin Harrison Jr. Marvin Harrison Jr. kind of saved his day a little bit. I'm going to put him as a strong start, but if you've got other options, I think a pretty common option. I've got Marvin Harrison Jr. as my wide receiver 13, but I think a lot of people are comparing him or like Emeka and Buka this weekend, and we'll get to him. Obviously, that game hasn't come up just yet, but some people were asking that because you got Buka in round 6, 7, 8, 9, somewhere whenever you drafted him, and Marv was a second or third round pick for you. So people are looking at that. I have Marv as my wide receiver 13. I'll talk about Buka when I get to him, but yeah, it's going to be Marv for me. And then, yeah, we'll kind of see from there. Michael Wilson, you shouldn't be starting the Cardinals wide receiver 2. Their wide receiver 2 is really Trey McBride, I'd say. All right, let's go to the Broncos versus the Colts. This one here is there'll be a surprising point in this. I would say that Courtland Sutton is a pretty strong start. I got him as my wide receiver 16, and then Marvin Mims and Troy Franklin and Marvin Mims. They've got to go into kind of the deep leagues category here, because we don't know what their role is. If I had to start one of the two, I would go Troy Franklin just based off of week 1 usage. But I like Marvin Mims more. What we saw in week 1 from the Broncos is not what we'll see from the Broncos all season long. Marvin Mims is going to also go into that deep leagues category. And then I've got Josh Downs. I've actually got Josh Downs over Michael Pittman. And my reasoning, Patrick Surtain II. We saw what he did against Calvin Ridley. I think that they're going to see what they saw from Michael Pittman in week 1 and say, hey, he's the wide receiver 1 for this Colts team. Let's go ahead, shut him down. And it should open up avenues for somebody who has been a Twitter darling in Josh Downs. So Josh Downs is going to be a little bit higher for me. Not crazy high. He's still going to be like a weak flex. And then Michael Pittman is in that same category. I have them side by side in my rankings, which again, you can find on Twitter or on Discord. We got a free Discord. You can check that out. Ask me any kind of questions you want there on either one of those. But yeah, it's the Patrick Surtain treatment. Could Michael Pittman not get on him for like a play or two or a few plays and obviously have some success? Yeah, absolutely. That can happen with any player. But yeah, it's not Josh Downs who I would start over him. Again, these are weak flex players that I'm talking about. And it's weird because Michael Pittman, I think he's a wide receiver 8 on the season. But what happened in week 1 doesn't happen all season. And yeah, I mean, it's encouraging for Michael Pittman as people who've kind of wrote him off, myself included. But yeah, not a great matchup here in week 2. Alec Pierce, that's a deep leagues play only. And then A.J. Brown, this is the Super Bowl rematch. We got the Chiefs and the Eagles. A.J. Brown, everybody saw that game. That was the season opener. 1 target, 1 reception. I guess 100% catch rate if that's what you're excited about. But A.J. Brown is going right back into my starting lineup. I'm not worried about his role. I have him as my wide receiver 10. Again, what we saw in week 1 isn't going to happen each and every single week. So I'm fine with throwing him right back out there. I'd say Devonta Smith is closer to like a week. He's closer to like a decent flex for me, and that's where he's probably going to be close to all season outside of injury to Brown. He's just a player who I think has a lot of talent, but he's on a team where they're just not throwing. They ran the ball a ton of times there in week 1, and will we suggest some of that more? Possibly. I mean, the Chiefs and Andy Reid are going to game plan for this matchup, so it's interesting to see how they decide they want to roll with this. Jahan Dotson, he's a deep league. Eagles wide receiver, says Commander's uniform, but Eagles wide receiver, he caught like a 50-yard pass or so in week 1, and that's not going to be something that's happening each and every single week on a low passing volume offense like that. Now the Chiefs, this is where a lot of people spend a lot of their fab or waiver priority in week 1. Hollywood Brown, I mean, Xavier Worthy, he's projected to practice. If he plays, let's start with Worthy. Because if he plays, I'm okay with having him as like a understanding that he's like a weak flex. But Hollywood, if he plays and Xavier Worthy is active, I'm less excited. I would say he's a weak flex if that's the case. But if Xavier Worthy is out for whatever reason, I would throw him into a decent flex category because 16 targets is something that's earned, and they used him in that Xavier Worthy role, taking deep shots, barely missing on a few of them, but I think that's definitely in the possibilities for Andy Reid and how they want to game plan for this one. Juju Smith-Schuster should see some more targets, but even so, I would say that's got to be a deep leagues only. Tyquan Thornton for the Chiefs, he's in a Patriots uniform, but Tyquan Thornton is a guy, he can take one to the house. He's got speed. We know he's got the speed, but what's his role look like? We're really unsure. Obviously, you're not starting Brandon Ayuk or Rashee Rice because both those guys are not there. Drake London. We're now into Sunday Night Football. This should be a pretty fun game. We got the Vikings in another primetime game against the Falcons here. I would say Drake London, check the practice reports. If he plays, he's an auto start. We saw, 15 targets in week 1. So you've got to start him if he is active. I'm not really concerned about that. And then Darnell Mooney, I'm going to double check his practice reports right now because if he's limited in practice as of Wednesday's practice. But yeah, if he's out there, he's a weaker flex right now. We want to see more of his participation. He could jump into the decent flex category if Drake London were to miss the game. I mean, that would just catapult him. All pass catchers. You get, Kyle Pitts as well. Ray McLeod, again, he's only a person who I'm trying not to start him. It's like a deep leagues only style of play. Him and Casey Washington, and some people might say, who's Casey Washington? He's just another wide receiver for the Falcons. But Ray and Casey, I would say both of those are only if Drake London were to miss the game. And they get even more of a bump up if Mooney were for whatever reason to miss the game. But outside of that, it's got to be like a 16-team league or a dynasty league with like rebuilding. A very rare situation where I would be starting either one of those guys. Justin Jefferson, though, I'm starting him. If you watched the Vikings game, you would say, oh, Justin Jefferson wasn't even active. It took forever for him to even get some targets in the game. But finally JJ started feeding JJ, starting to get that connection, and so that's nice. Yeah, obviously you're starting him. You're not sitting him at all. Adam Thielen, I think he only had one target, and it was the one that got like blasted out of his hands. And so, yeah, he's a deep leagues play. I'm expecting him to have a little bit more of a role until Jordan Addison gets back, but one target in week 1, you can't really do anything. Obviously, you're not starting Jordan Addison. And then doubleheader for Monday Night Football. You got the Bucs, you got the Texans. Mike Evans is somebody who I'm going to put in the strong start category, and I'm going to put his teammate, Emeka Egbuka, in the strong start category as well. As far as my rankings go, I have Egbuka at wide receiver 19. I have Evans at wide receiver 18. So I have them side by side in this matchup. You should, as long as he's playing, Derek Stingley, he should be on Evans. He's one of the top cornerbacks. And if that's the case, it should open up more of a role for Emeka Egbuka. 2 touchdowns in week 1. He's not going to have 2 touchdowns each and every single week. It's encouraging. It's nice to see. I'm excited for him. He's in my strong start category. But people are going to be asking those start-sit questions. I have a post up right now on Twitter that you can go and check out. If you have any of those style of questions, again, the Twitter is right here. You can also ask me in the Discord. Or if you're tilting and you say, man, I've put Egbuka in my lineup, I've taken him out, I've put him in, I've taken him out. I will say that you can tilt with me on Sunday Live. I'm live every single Sunday on YouTube. And if that's the case, yeah, I mean, I'm tilting with you. I have him in some leagues, and yeah, it's not a pretty place to be when you're comparing it. I mean, so look at some of the names that are behind him that were obviously drafted ahead of him. You got Tyreek Hill, you got Zay Flowers, who's the wide receiver 1. Some people are eyeing down that decision here in week 1, or Debo. So the hype is there. I think it's legit. But there are situations where you can bench him if your roster, says that you have players that are better than that. And then let's go down to, obviously not playing Chris Godwin, Nico Collins, another player who just kind of stunk it up in week 1, but I'm throwing him right back into your must-start category. Oh, man. Could he be is my wide receiver 8? I think I probably have to... Yeah, I'm going to keep him in my must-start. He deserves the respect of that. We've seen what he could do. He can make house calls, but I am tempering expectations just a little bit. This Texans Bucks defense. Yeah, Nico, please do something. Please do something here for us. Christian Kirk, the last practice reports I saw on him were that he was... Yeah, we didn't get any practice reports from him just yet. That's what it was. He was ruled out for week 1, and that was the last thing that we saw. But I would say if he plays, he's probably a weak flex. Xavier Hutchinson, and who I don't have a headshot for. Obviously, I could add him there, but I don't think a lot of people... He would be in the deep leagues category anyways. But Jaden Higgins, the rookie wide receiver, outside wide receiver, played behind Hutchinson. It's... Outside of Nico, you really don't want anybody there. As far as the Texans, it's just a very nasty spot to be. And then the last game of the week, got the Chargers and the Raiders. This one here, Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnston, and Keenan Allen. I think all 3 of them are going to go into my decent start category. I would put Quentin Johnston in my decent flex category because it's just he has more upside than a Keenan Allen does at 33 years old. You got QJ coming into year 3. That's when a lot of wide receivers break out. We just talked about Nico Collins. He's one of those wide receivers. But it's really those 3, and that's it. Are they going to keep up the pass volume that they've had here so far in week 1 for the Chargers? Perhaps. We don't have the crystal ball. We don't really... Typically, they've been wanting to run the ball. And that's kind of been the Greg Roman style of play. But yeah, I would say Ladd McConkey is definitely a strong start. QJ is a decent flex. I've got Ladd as my wide receiver 15, and I've got Quentin Johnston. Where do I've got him? I think I've got him probably buried a little bit more. Yeah, I've got him as my... Oh, no, he's got to go up in the rankings. I would say they're definitely a decent flex for both those. If I have either one of those guys on my flex, I won QJ off the waiver wire. I'm really excited. Allen was drafted in a lot of leagues. I'm cool with either one of those guys in my flex. Really excited for either one of them. And then the last guys here on the Raiders, Jacoby Myers, I think, is a strong flex. Caused a ton of missed tackles forced in week 1. And then Trey Tucker, he's a weaker flex. And I would say the same thing for Deontay Thornton. It's just auxiliary pass catchers. I'm going to double check on Brock Bowers and his practice reports, because they haven't had anything updated for him. I'm recording this here on Thursday morning, around lunchtime, and so they just haven't had any of those reports come out just yet. But if you were to miss, I would expect a little bit of an uptick of work, obviously, for other pass catchers that are there. But yeah, Brock Bowers, if you, just last little tidbit before I head off, Brock Bowers, if you do have him and he doesn't practice or is like limited for the entire week, you need to have other options like a Michael Myers or Michael Mayer, or just thinking about the Halloween movie now, or like a Will Disley or Tyler Conklin, because it's Monday Night Football. And if he doesn't play, and you won't know until then, you might get updates in between now, but if you don't know, then you can't go unprotected or without a additional tight end to at least get you some kind of points, just in case Bowers is. So it's a tough decision. You don't really want to roster. I mean, those are 3 like not great tight ends right now. So I understand if you can't do that and you're willing to go with the 0 points, but just be cautious, of course. And that's going to be it. This is all of the wide receivers here for the tier list in week 2. Let me know what you think. Is there a player that I have too high or too low? Again, just as a reiteration, I don't have Brian Thomas as my wide receiver 1 of the week, and I don't have, I would move them around as far as the rankings go, but this is more of just to give you a confidence level with the players. If you do want to see all the rankings and everything like that, you can see it. I have all of them on Twitter. You can also check them out on the Discord. And then if you have any start-sit questions, you can hit me up there on social media as well, or on YouTube when I go live on Sunday. And I'll see you then.